Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the JT Jorfi podcast. Today, my guests are Adam Sherman and Charlie Zarikian, and they are facilitators of sacred medicines and healers of all sorts. So interested and very happy to have them on the show. So thanks, guys, for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, JT. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Thank you for coming on the show. And maybe we can start off just by giving us a little bit of background on yourselves and kind of how you got onto this journey and the path of becoming facilitators in these practices.
Sure. So I guess I'll start. Thank you for having us, JT. I think my awakening started it back in 2010, more or less. And at that point, I was just really getting into books and reading just ancient knowledge and filling my mind with ancient wisdom. And I began to research sacred medicines and kind of developed a community in the Houston area where it grew quite fast. And one of the facilitators from Mexico who was serving medicine eventually ended up asking me to be his translator and train with him and travel throughout South America. And that was 5.5 years ago. And here I am now. And yeah, that's how it went.
Gosh, I've had a history of, drug use for a while. And until I started doing holistic healing, then I was able to really grasp why I went through all those lessons, and that it was to prepare me to heal myself first before I could then help heal others. So, Western medicine never did a thing for me. Therapies, rehabs, nothing, until I really understood the chakra system and, got my Reiki master. I took a 4-year healing school and then had found ayahuasca in Mexico and was doing research on Bufo. And that's how I met Charlie. And then it just kept growing from there. I'd uncovered an ancient temple and have kind of found some other ones here. And so all this has been just because I feel like our love for seeking, why are we here? What is our kind of, plan here? What is the sacred plan? How do we help people? How do we serve while also, staying in alignment and heart opened and that type of thing too. So it just keeps evolving and changing. And I think that's what we're supposed to be doing, is just keep, not attaching to one particular thing, but just keep flowing and, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing now, not what I thought it was or something.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting you both hit on the kind of ancient wisdoms and traditions that have been, I guess, that you've experienced, that you've come across, that you've researched into. And have you maybe seen similar threads across different types of ancient civilizations with their approaches to healing, with their approaches to thinking about kind of the human condition? Any things that kind of stood out to you as being these kind of nuggets of wisdom that would be kind of easy to convey to folks as you've encountered them?
Well, yeah, so many threads.
Great question.
Yeah, great question. But in terms of easy to explain, some of these stories are so complex in their nature. They can be explained easily, but they go so deep. And one that we were just talking about before we came on the air was the Epic of Atrahasis. And have you heard of that one? Are you familiar?
No.
Essentially describes the human conditions, or the human condition of duality, and how we as humans became, went from being whole to, being divided, and essentially was an internal process as well as an external process. And this is before the Garden of Eden story. So essentially it was written before the Garden of Eden, or at least that's what the text that was found was 4,000 years ago. It was said to be written. So essentially, it kind of illustrates, humanity's fall from wholeness, from oneness into duality, and but kind of sets you up and paints this picture of, we were designed that way. We were designed to be dualistic in order so that we could rediscover our wholeness on our own. We weren't given wholeness. We were given the concept that it was possible, and that, is built within us, but we have to find it, we have to seek it, and we have to cultivate it. And so, that's one story that really sticks with me and informs the way I live my life.
Adam?
Yeah, I mean, growing up Catholic, was a beautiful thing, really, because I developed a love for Yeshua, Mother Mary, but was very against the force of the guilt and shame that Catholicism, kind of controls. So learning ancient, native ways of doing thing. And then like also like coming to grips with the fact that, Native Americans were slaughtered by, you know, religion in a lot of ways. And so like as these truths have been coming forward with us, psychically, intuitively, and, it's like these truths are coming back about these atrocities that have been committed. And, like that one school in Canada where they uncovered all those, Native American bodies and stuff. And so it's like the real medicines have been hidden. Western medicine in the early 90s, that's when Rockefeller came into the picture, and everything was holistic prior to that. And now it's, everything is petrochemicals. It's like what this all system is doing is taking, not only taking the sacred out of everything, but taking the fact that we can heal our bodies on our own if we have that knowledge and wisdom to do so. But the whole point of this whole thing is to disconnect us from our bodies, bombard us with stimulation and different frequencies that just, scatterbrain is the real virus, in my opinion. Nobody talks about.
Well, it's funny you mentioned scatterbrain too, because that's actually mentioned in the Epic of Atrahasis is this scattered frequency that the gods could no longer handle. It's interesting how that's kind of proliferated now in this time. So, yeah.
Well, and I mean, with that scattered kind of mindset, we've uncovered that a lot of obviously there's an attack on the elements, right? So air, that's pretty common knowledge that chemtrails are real. Water is obviously infiltrated. Fire, earth, the food is obviously tampered with now. Like when all this stuff, it's like, guys, red flag. Like, let's go back to let's get healthy, let's get in the body. But also with the scatterbrain thing is like, we've been finding that through a lot of energy work clients and stuff like that too. Like Alzheimer's is the root chakra, where it should be at the root is actually at the crown, and the crown is down at the feet. So of course, people are going to be, which way do I go? What's going on here?
It's like a reverse polarity.
Well, the poles are shifting too. And, as do ours.
Where do you think that, and like maybe is this part of like some broader design that none of us could fathom, but like where did humanity kind of move away from that oneness toward like basically destroying ourselves and our environment around us? You mentioned like kind of the Rockefeller and petrochemical turn of modern medicine. Like, was that more of like a post-industrial revolution type of thing where we were kind of separating and isolating ourselves from our environment and our ability to heal ourselves? Or did it kind of happen even before then? Did you have any insight on that?
I wish I could say for sure. We really only can pull from the scope of like the very recent past, because the rest of we only live upwards of 100 years. So,
right.
But, I think this pull away from nature is kind of exactly built into the duality thing. Duality serves such a beautiful lesson in showing contrast, in showing the divine, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, it was very intentional about putting us into duality, because it gives us the opportunity to not only choose what we prefer by virtue of contrast, but also see the stark differences of, wow, look at how we're living now, so removed from nature, yet nature it has everything it needs. It is abundance. It is it's full and rich and needs no input other than collaboration.
Yeah.
So I think there's a gift, of course, that it's the time we're in. We'd love to see things change. We'd love to see things differently, but that's the opportunity that we have is to be the change and to return to that state. I hope I answered the question.
I think the Vatican has a lot to do with things. I think the Christmas, right? A lot has been coming through about Christmas where it's a perversion of, what should be celebrating, the birth of Jesus. And it's become about consumerism, sacrificing presents like, embodied presence for external presence.
Mm.
So from that age, right, a young age, we're kind of molded to, oh, you better be good for Santa to come. So I feel like that like kind of shuffles down our shadow side. But then we just learn to think that all gifts are outside of us. So we need more and more and more and more gifts, more food, more what, like never fully satisfied because we've sacrificed real presence, which Christ was and is. But I do believe this is all beautifully orchestrated for us to come back into that presence, into that wholeness, into complete union with God, with, union in relationships, union with Mother Earth, like union with the elements. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all served a purpose, but the holidays are all misconstrued. I
Yeah.
mean,
Just the stress around it that's
well, and
almost
like sugar, I
manufactured.
mean, sugar is, you want to talk about something dark. I mean, sugar is pretty dark.
Right. Well, and
Yeah.
like, and of course, we're encouraged at every event, birthdays and holidays, to, you know, gorge ourselves and fill ourselves up. And Adam and I have really been brainstorming ways in which we can change our experience of holidays while still
Mm.
being with family and you know. So.
Yeah, yeah. The just thinking about sugar on different levels. So my wife Brittany, who you know, she's very into nutrition, and myself, I, to be honest, really haven't been most of my life, but being with her has really opened my eyes to just the impact on me, obviously physical, but also like kind of mental and even spiritual impact of the food I consume. And I enjoy a little too much like eating sugar. And I like our first Christmas we spent together, just gorged on so many Christmas cookies. And I just felt awful for like 2 weeks afterward. And I was just like, wow, like that's wild. Like that's something that, like you're saying, like it's kind of pushed upon us. Like this is good. This is a way to celebrate. Sugar is like great. Everyone loves it. And then I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, it's this plant that's like highly processed and refined into this basically white powder. It's like, what else is another highly refined,
Sugar.
drug that's processed into powder? It's like made me just kind of run some parallels and metaphors and similes there. I was like,
It's a crystal.
yeah,
Yeah, like anything that is in crystal form is going to be powerful. I mean, and we I don't and to that point, I don't think we give enough credit to like rock crystals and how
mm,
powerful they are. It's kind of like seen as woo woo, but to think of it, the sugar, it's a powerful thing. Yeah.
And I mean, you take a step further and start doing some parasite cleanses,
Mm,
then you realize that, uh, parasites are infiltrated in a lot of people. There's the gut mind connection, the eyes get all thing, the gut gets extended, and then there's parasites like interact within different people. We wonder why we can't hear things sometimes from somebody or whatever. It's like it's all interacting. And why isn't there a vaccine for like Lyme disease?
mm,
mm.
You know?
And I wish we had more time to like expand on all these properly,
Yeah,
but
that's
but to your point, like it's so important that we do cleanse the body, because this is the way that we receive our purpose, is through the vessel. And we have to clean house so that we can see what we're doing and where we're going, and how we can use these bodies to live our best life.
yeah, yeah. And on the parasite and kind of cleansing, are there any recommendations or types of practices that you guys typically suggest to the folks that you work with on how to address those?
Yeah, I would say if you're going to do it, do your own research. We can give you some tips, but be prepared for the things that you see come out of you, essentially. I don't know how else to put it, but
Mm,
the first time I did it, I wasn't prepared, and it threw me for a spin. But so one thing that I've used is obviously castor oil is so powerful for so many things. Fasting
yes,
is
fasting first.
huge,
Yeah.
is huge. But then, in addition to fasting, you want to make sure you're not consuming things while you're doing a cleanse, because it's just going to plug things up. So castor oil, I use something rather controversial, which is pure gum spirit of turpentine, which is actually not the same thing that people buy at Home Depot. Turpentine at Home Depot is a petroleum made chemical, and it's used as a paint thinner. But spirit of gum turpentine is distilled from pine sap, essentially. And so it's like pine essential oils.
Hmm.
And so you can combine this with a little bit of castor oil and take it after you've fasted on an empty stomach and stay hydrated. And it's,
You'll see right away
yeah.
what.
Interesting.
And those are just a few. There's so many different ones.
And with fasting, what kind of like duration is it? Like an intermittent, more regularly, or more like prolonged, like over the course of a year? How do you like? Is it kind of case by case? How do you think about that?
I listen to my body.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, I usually don't eat until like 1 or 2 o'clock anyway, but I feel like it's a good process to start listening to your body about, okay, you know, do we really need 3 meals a day? But then like the cleaner you feel, the more truth comes. So you just start listening more and more and releasing attachments, and it all just kind of, evolves.
Yeah, and maybe we can kind of talk through some of the physiological. I know with that fasting, it just gives your kind of stomach more time to be empty, which I imagine allows it to kind of clean itself up. Are there kind of any other processes that you kind of see as going on like during that time in between meals that's beneficial?
I think for a longer period of time, then it starts burning off, say cysts in the body and in other stuff. And I mean, why is it called fasting? It's fast.
Fast
You
track.
want the fast track to healing. Well, I mean, there you go. But when you can control what you eat or consume, then that's a really great power and ability you have over that.
And have you seen this practice in some of the more, like you're mentioning, kind of these ancient traditions? Has that been something that's kind of been utilized in other cultures as well?
For sure, for sure. I mean, you go back to the Bible, and fasting for 40 days was not uncommon.
Mm.
People do it still today in very nuanced circles. I think it's shocking to hear. Oh my gosh, 40 days you haven't eaten anything. But you know, I, I don't want to. I don't know. I read a lot of ancient creation myths and everything. So the Pro Magnus, I'm not really, all the ancient humanoid beings that we may have evolved from. I'm not really privy to terminology and all that. But when you think about it, all that to say, people weren't eating every single day
Mm.
in those times. Not everyone had access to food like we do. And so, yeah, I believe not only was it a part of the circumstances of their life that they didn't have food all the time, but they also, I believe, they recognized the psycho-spiritual processes that are unfolding within them when they have more energy in their body from not digesting food, from all of that. So yeah, I think it was used in a twofold way, out of necessity and then out of this connection that they could dial into.
Yeah, kind of as you're saying, like the energy that it takes to digest, right? So it's obviously being diverted away from other uses. So I imagine that, and I don't really fast that often. I think I'm actually kind of intentionally working almost in a different direction where I haven't been eating enough calories
Yeah.
in a given day. So like I was like, all right, first I want to set this baseline where at least I know I'm eating enough calories, and then maybe go down from 3 meals a day to 2 meals a day, just to give me kind of more of that intermittent fast. But I do kind of recognize just even in the approach that I'm taking now, like, but when I'm not consuming, when I'm not digesting, it's easier to then have the energy to do the opposite, to produce, to divert my energies toward more like building or productive mechanisms rather than like having to break down the things that are already inside of me. And it's more like kind of slowing down the system that it feels. So I think my personal goal would be to reduce my window of eating time. I think I just need to maybe expand my stomach to be able to handle enough calories in one sitting to be able to
Right,
do
right.
that. But it's definitely something that I've seen in in smaller iterations, like when I am able to intermittent fast for longer periods of time, you just kind of like feel lighter and more able to get things done. And kind of going back to like the brain scramble and that feeling, I kind of brings to mind just the idea of like we have these Wi-Fi signals, we have these like cell phones sitting in our pockets, like radio frequencies and all that stuff, and a bunch of different studies that have been coming up on just like their effects on the human physiology because we're ultimately electric beings with our nervous systems and things like that. And it seems almost unavoidable just because, I work in an office and I have Wi-Fi in my home, and like our food supply, I guess you could start growing your own food, but I'm not really practicing being a farmer yet. So like it's a whole different lifestyle change. Are there any kind of maybe smaller stepping stones for someone that's like myself, that's like very much in this environment where I see these damaging, potentially, brain scrambling environmental factors that I'm faced with? How can I start moving away from that to create my own environment where there's like maybe less negative impacts happening? Like any recommendations there?
Yeah, I mean, first, like I think, humanity as a whole needs to get really just solid with declaring their freedom and sovereignty, over like, gosh, how many times do we like say turn on Netflix and it's violent show after violent show, sex, killings, like the news, like you want to talk about, everything is completely reversed, but declaring your freedom and sovereignty over these, let's say, nefarious frequencies. So, I give no intention on taking on not only anybody else's energy, but my own, but, any other signals or whatever. Say there's like a running, how many times do we get songs in our head?
All the
You
time.
know,
Every
what's
day.
the wording to those songs? Is that suiting our highest good? No. Control Alt Delete all audios, all screens. It's really teaching us that, our bodies and everything is kind of like some type of computer system where we can, delete old recordings, delete audios, visuals, like whatever. It's like we got to treat it like that.
Mm.
But definitely, I recommend, shungite is a great crystal to put by Wi-Fi signals, TVs, any type of protective crystal, anything, like black tourmaline, obsidian. Now they have these. Actually, I have one on my phone right here. It's like a little Wi-Fi protector thing that you can buy those on Amazon. And what I've learned too is like a lot of times the phones in the pockets can actually create holes in the aura.
Mm.
So it's really about like, do we need all these electronics all the time? There should be equal enough time that we connect with the elements and kind of energetically clean from all these frequencies.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to piece together a bunch of different parts of the conversation, but like a word that keeps on popping into my head is like fear, right? Like, so maybe like this nature, moving away from it. Like I, had an experience, like I'm not avid camper, and like I haven't really grown up camping or not a Boy Scout or anything. So I didn't really have much exposure to being in nature. And like when I was like out in the woods and then like there was some poison ivy and I was starting a fire and Brittany was like, "What are you doing? Like that's poison ivy." I was like, "Oh, what?" Like I had no idea. And so, and then this kind of fear struck me in that moment of like, whoa, like I almost just like ruined our whole trip just by being totally naive to the, dangers of kind of interacting with the wrong types of plants, interacting with the wrong types of animals. So I guess see why and how it's just like a safer, easier existence to almost just completely remove yourself entirely from nature, build a box, put ourselves inside the box, never leave the box. But I think, with the pandemic lockdowns and just spending so much time isolated inside this dwelling away from other people, away from nature, you start to see the impacts like on your psyche of being like disconnected, feeling lonely, feeling isolated. So there is kind of like, I mean, I guess in my mind, like there's this balance. Yeah, maybe the fear is there for a good reason to keep you safe, to keep you alive, to keep you going. But then if you have too much of it, you'll end up just kind of like falling over on the other side too much, and just being consumed by it and like end up probably dying young of onset heart attack or anxiety anyway. So like I guess through like your practices and through your facilitating, is kind of coming to terms with that fear something that you've seen come up? Like maybe what are some different maybe modalities or practices that you've seen folks be successful with kind of confronting these types of ideas?
I mean, fear is for us. How like fear is everything's for us. So, I mean, to me, it's like false evidence appearing real. Like it's meant for us to work through. I do feel like a lot of these emotions that we try to avoid need to be acknowledged. Fear, like, what am I fearful of, right now? Like, thank you, fear, for teaching me where I'm out of alignment. I've felt your ass long enough, but you can leave. And like breathing into that and like really feeling it for a little bit. But then, thank you for teaching me. You can leave. I welcome in teachings of love, peace, happiness, and joy, or whatever. But a lot of times I feel like, we're just meant to acknowledge, you know, anger, sadness, whatever it may be. Like, thank you for teaching me, but I felt you long enough.
And I think the dialogue is such a beautiful access point. The dialogue that you begin to start with yourself, even like you were talking about earlier, the do not consent. I do not consent to thoughts that are not mine, that thoughts that seem like not mine. I just watched a scary movie and now I'm having these,
Right.
like that dialogue is so powerful. And being intentional about the thoughts that we emit, and as opposed to letting the thoughts think us. I've
Mm,
heard it said before, but I think with fear also, like Adam said, fear is a teacher, but I think it's all about remaining curious about everything and really being aware of your inner landscape, but being curious as to, like Adam mentioned, how is this for me? How is this fear coming up? It's coming up. How is it? Could it be for me? Like start small and then go deeper. But the curiosity is the antidote, I think, in some ways. I mean, there may be others to the poison ivy
mm. Yeah.
thing, because if we remain curious, we'll do the research to educate ourselves to know that, okay, that's a wolf, stay away, run. Or if we're not familiar with what something is essentially, or this is poison ivy, or how to start a fire, could I
Hmm.
keep myself alive? Well, let's get curious and educate myself and find out. I think, and that's such like a micro way to say how curiosity can really guide you and lead you.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I think with like you're mentioning like the thoughts thinking you and then like setting intentions and really asking the question like why are these if they be like emotions, whether you have fear, sadness, like excitement, even joy, like on those things, just kind of asking yourself why rather than just saying like and I think, maybe it's a maturity thing and myself and like my path as well. Like I was didn't really think to ask, where is this emotion coming from? Why am I feeling it? What is it trying to show me? Those are definitely more recent questions that I even thought that I could ask and could get answers for. I had just assumed that they were things that came and went and there was zero maybe reason behind them or zero ability to inquire as to their source and there was kind of random comings and goings. So yeah, I think that that practice of setting intentions for kind of how you want your experience in the universe to go and how you want your physical body to react to it was a big change for me and just being like I am more in the driver's seat than I thought. And that's I think one of the big things that came out of working with yourselves and through these other modalities of self-discovery and just like kind of inner healing work is like you have the power within yourself to address and to heal a lot of these things that I think in typical society would tell you like, oh, you have to go see a doctor, and they're the only ones that can enable you to get better, and kind of just giving away your power to the external world rather than trying to own it yourself. And so I think that's been like a really big shift for me, but still, it's like an ingrained habit and like
Yeah.
a hard one to move past of when those doubts come up, it's like, oh, like what do the experts say, or like what is this media outlet telling me to do, and I should just defer to these experts rather than trusting myself.
Right.
Well, and that's a beautiful thing. It can be a blend of both.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think maybe it's like nostalgia for something that I never even experienced or whatnot, but like this idea of like this tribal kind of knowledge and the wisdom of the elders and all that. I feel like in the society that we kind of have today in the United States and just like kind of families living in separate houses, like you don't really have that knowledge. Like I would have learned the poison ivy thing probably from a grandpa or from a grandma, like early on, like if we were living out in those environments, but like that's not really as readily available. So maybe like through your facilitation groups, through your retreats and things like that, like bringing people together, have you seen just kind of like the knowledge sharing, the maybe traditions and passing on of different stories and being able to share experiences to learn from each other when you bring those people together?
Oh yeah. Oh, and that's yeah. Yeah, you go.
Yeah. I think, you know what happens at some of the retreats that, we kind of step out of the way and just allow the channeling to come through. And it's so beautiful. Like, I feel like we really forget the power of and love of community.
Mm.
And so like during, say, a week of retreat, it's like this family forms and everybody has medicine. Like it's not just us. I mean, we are learning 100% from everybody else in the retreat too. And that's the beauty of it. When you set a container, when you have one of these events, it's just like then God just comes in and works through every single person, helping every single person, elevate. And that's when all these, to me, like these events and everything are just extremely sacred. And it's the sacredness that we need to go back to. It's the family that we need to go back to. It's the, family dinners and the importance of holding space for each other as all of us go through trying times.
Yeah. Yeah, could you explain maybe some of the sacred medicines that you work with and maybe their historical uses and kind of their effects?
Yeah, so we work primarily with the Bufo medicine, which is the toad medicine. People may know 5-MeO-DMT, which is found in Bufo. It's not the only psychoactive part of Bufo compound, whatever you want to call it. And we also work with Kambo, which is a medicine derived from a frog, and it has a bunch of peptides that essentially reinstruct your body how to properly heal. So it's not necessarily doing the healing or cleansing for you. It's just re-instructing your body how to do it properly and optimally itself. But with Bufo combo, there's a long lineage of that medicine being used. And Bufo, it's kind of this recent phenomena, for lack of a better term. It's relatively recently known, and as opposed to like ayahuasca and peyote, whose lineage and history goes back many years, we know that Bufo, we're still finding out. We're still discovering, and I think the quantum nature of this medicine, Bufo, it's so far-reaching. Its arms reach and stretch out so vast because it can be used for healing. It can be used for what a lot of people come to it for, which is depression, anxiety, PTSD. Very powerful for these things, but this medicine has the potential to do so much more. And I mean that in terms of visionary and shamanic processes that an individual can engage with in this medicine in order to, be it gather information or, do ritualistic magic, to create change within the self to see the change outside of self. And so this medicine goes really deep, but essentially we do these retreats for people who are seeking the healing from depression, anxiety, and it's very powerful. It only lasts about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the individual, but it's powerful. And I suggest anyone who wants to know more, do your research again, remain curious, but also make sure that you're prepared for what this medicine is going to bring into your life, because it's not like the easiest integration for some people. For some people, it's like, awesome, like, let's go, like, jump into their new lives. And so just stay informed and do your own research and make sure that you come prepared within to receive the medicine.
Yeah, but I mean, one of the, I love how this whole like conversation started, and now we're talking about Bufo because what we've talked about, prior, just with, Christmas and the parasites and everything, all these external distractions are meant to take us out of our body, out of the heart space. And Bufo is such a beautiful heart opener that it puts people back into the heart space. So then we can be like, oh yeah, like I was outside of my body for most of my life. Now I'm inside. My heart is opened. I'm worthy. I'm confident. I love myself. I love my family. You are me. I am you. God is all. Like life's great. Like that's why everything has been trying to take us out of our body and out of the heart space is because we are that powerful when we are in the heart space.
Yeah.
The God gene resides within, not
Mhm.
out, not external.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked when you just said that, it reminded me, I forget where I read it, but like a fable of like God wanted to hide himself from humans. They're like, oh, where should I hide myself? If I put under a mountain, they'll just dig me up. If at the bottom of the ocean, they'll just swim down. I'll just hide myself inside of them. They'll
Side of
never
me.
look there. Yeah. 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 Charlie, you mentioned the quantum nature of the medicine. Could you maybe explain what that means to you and I guess it's like on the quantum level, like scale of like size. Is that kind of what you mean there?
I mean in all ways that quantum can be quantum in all possibilities. It is. So I'll answer in terms of kind of what I've experienced the medicine to induce within me, which is the mystical experience
Mm,
that any human can have with or without medicine. And it's this experience of not only non-duality, oneness, interconnectedness, um, but also this ability to know things beyond our own physical form.
mm,
And how did I know? How would I know that? And so in that way, I believe that this medicine is a technology that can allow us to not only connect to past lives, to future time, which and I don't know,
Yep.
you
My
too.
very first process was future.
Yeah, was what we call future sight. Sounds really out there, but these are things that people are beginning to understand and start to talk about as well, the medicine can show you what it needs to show you. So whether that be taking you into the future and showing you a future event, or showing you why you encountered a relationship, why you got into a relationship, and how you're exactly where you need to be right now. So it does work with time in that way. And I think the quantum nature of it is it also works with other dimensions, realities, other parallel existences. And so
mm.
really giving us the ability outside of the medicine to then tap into what life we want to, and through that conscious choice, snapping it to whichever quantum reality we choose. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of verbiage to go with that. There's a lot of nitty gritty details that we could get into, but that's essentially how I would describe it.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. I guess it's hard to put into words something that is beyond
It's
Yeah.
so
beyond
hard.
everything.
And the nature of the mystical experience is you can't put words to it.
Right.
It's ineffable.
And so you mentioned also integration. It sounds like that mystical experience and being able to go beyond the physical is then the integration process, kind of understanding that once you're back into this duality, once you're back into your everyday life and with your family and the rest of society and all that. Is that kind of what the integration process is being able to take that experience that you have and kind of bring it into yourself and know how to recall or use it moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, the integration process, that's the beauty when the real healing starts. Bufo has that rocket ship that takes you there, but the integration is when the real work begins. And we like people that sit with us to have a really strong spiritual practice to rely on, as integration. But as humanity, we all should know how to properly process emotions when they come up. What do I do when anger comes up? What do I do when sadness comes up? How do I, am I going to the ocean? Am I going to the earth when I'm feeling this? Am I okay just sitting with my emotions and realizing they're only temporary and just passing through? So, it's all, but there's so many gifts in integration too. It's we receive the spiritual downloads from the beautiful medicine, and then sometimes the physical body is the last to catch up.
Mm,
So, sickness can occur, but it's actually getting well, not getting sick. So it's just being in the body, being present with yourself, being completely, in beautiful harmony with body, mind, and spirit. And knowing that when we're out of alignment with one of the three, well, then there's another one that we need to put, more attention towards.
right. Yeah.
I would say, just like you said, just to highlight, yeah, integration is in the body. It
Mm,
happens in the body. And so if people needed a pointer, just take time with yourself. Take time to be in silence with yourself and see what comes up. I think that's a really good start to integration. There's so many ways to integrate.
yeah, no, that's really helpful. And we are coming up on the end of our scheduled time here. I know we could all talk about this
Yeah.
probably for days on end, and I would love to have you both back on the show to dive some more into these topics. But wanted to give you any last thoughts to leave with the audience, any last things to share, or where folks can find you.
Keep trusting, double down on the faith, hope, double down on love, increase the dose with love, turn to family, turn to friends, go to the elements. The elements are the original medicine. Stop looking outside of yourself for a lot of things. I mean, I did that for many years, and But yeah, as far as for myself, Adam Sherman on Facebook, Adam C. Sherman on Instagram. I do a lot of Zoom energy work calls, accessing the Akashic records. So clearing master programs for people like fear, anxiety, doubt, stuff like that, and using ancient coding as well that, kind of reconnects, neural pathways and stuff like that. So we do that, and we're getting ready for kind of retreat season. So that's basically it for me.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at ascension.incarnate or just type in my name, Charlie Zarikian. I'll pop up. And our website is Sacred Site Temple. That's sacred, SITE, sacredsitetemple.com. And
Cool. Yeah, I'll drop all those links in the description on the Spotify. And when I do a little promo on the Instagram, we'll tag you all as collaborators so that people can see and check out your pages there. So yeah, thank you again both so much for coming on the show. Really
Thank you.
appreciate your time and insights and perspectives and sharing them with us.
yeah, thank you for having us.
So good to see you again.
Likewise. Yeah. See you soon.
All
Take
right.
care, everyone.
Bye.